We should be live right now.
I'm on your channel. I subscribe to it.
Yeah, give it a sec. Hold on a second. If anyone is tuned in right now, we are just getting things together, getting things in order. It'll only be a few moments. Let me see, because I also could check. Okay, I see that it says that I'm live.
Yeah.
You see it?
I got it. Okay, I'm looking at it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just needed a few moments there. Now, what is good, Old Soul family? It's your boy Old Soul J, and I am back with another live with my boy Drew the Guru. Now today we have a really special one for you guys. We are talking about keys to spiritual activation. All right. So my boy Drew, he put together something, a powerful lesson, and we're really gonna get into it today, family. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. How you doing, my brother? Oh, brother, I can't hear you. Is your microphone off?
Check.
All right, I can hear you now.
All right, bet. Yeah, we very well. I'm letting my social medias know that I'm live right now.
Yes, sir. Guys,
I'll get some people in here.
Yes. We got some special one for y'all today. A special one for y'all today. Now, y'all already know anybody who watches any of my videos in the past, y'all already know I'm all about spiritual activation, and it's more than anything that's more important is actually taking the action and actually doing the things that get us to the next level, to the higher levels. Real action, you know what I mean? We could talk all day, we could say all things that's inspiring and all these things of that nature, but we're about real life evolution.
Facts.
All right, family.
Facts.
So spiritual activation, right? One thing I want to say before we get started is spiritual, right? Being spiritual isn't just a term, it's a way of life, right, family? So some people will consider themselves spiritual based on their beliefs, but that's a religious concept, all right? Or I won't even want to say that, because certain people consider themselves a certain religion because of their beliefs as well, but it's really about a lifestyle, all right? So we're gonna give it to you guys in ways that you could actually start embodying the lifestyle. That's where you go when you get to, after you're at the level of things resonating, the next level is the actual action.
Facts. And let me say, like, being spiritual, like, just because I got this mala on doesn't mean that I'm spiritual. Just because I got all these crystals on, these bracelets, that doesn't mean nothing about my spirituality. If anything, that's just a simple material possession. You know, someone can be wearing these beads, but they don't pray with them. It doesn't hold any real, tangible, integral value in it. So someone who is spiritual, if you break that down, that word spiritual is spirit ritual. You're doing rituals to enrich your spirit. Mm-hmm. So if you're not doing these rituals, if you're not practicing a specific discipline, then you're really not spiritual. You're just someone living a life of meaningless habits. Spirituality is about directing your discipline, directing your practices towards a specific goal of transformation. Transforming your spirit.
I love how you broke that down. I love how you broke that down. That's why they call him Drew the Guru, Super Saiyan Sorcerer. Brother, that was perfect. Like you just said it perfectly. I couldn't have said that better, brother.
Yes. All right. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we can get into the slides if you don't have anything else you'd like to mention.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's jump into it. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of it all. All right.
Yeah. I'm sending a couple more links out to my peeps.
I'm telling you guys, this is Drew's presentation, right? I'm not gonna take credit for the makeup of this presentation, but I did look through it, and I'm telling you right now, this is gonna be a banger. So you do not
And I
want to
already
miss
know
this.
that Jay is gonna have some diamonds, some gems to be added to this. I would just whip this up to get my thoughts down, make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, most definitely we'll have something that you can visualize, something to simplify this information so that it's not just ideas in your head. It'll be something very simple, As much as there's a lot of ideas going on, it really is quite simple what we're talking about today.
Right. There's but so many ways you could say it. There's but so many ways you could put it. The best way to teach is to make it understandable.
Facts.
Simplify
Yeah, you should
it.
put that in full screen also.
I got you, brother.
Yeah, the live is delayed on my screen, but we making it work.
Yeah. Make it work with what we got. So, first slide here, as you can see, this looks like a man right here activating something.
Yo, yes, you see the lightning, it's obviously a pale-skinned being, you feel me? If anything, that's Thor, you feel me? And when I'm thinking of activation, I'm thinking of Thor or Shango, however you want to pronounce that avatar, right? And activation, the reason that, you're going to see a lot of visual imagery of lightning and this burst of power, it really hones in that energy of Shango, which is raw power, So we're going to learn different ways that we can channel this raw power and how we can use it to transform our lives.
Powerful, brother. So, and as you can see here on the next slide, that Super Saiyan activation, man, this one right here is super eye-catching. Now, brother, so we briefly spoke about this the other day. So you could just briefly go ahead and explain again what you was telling me about the chi and the energy and the aura, because Goku's aura is going crazy right now.
Oh, he going crazy. He is going crazy. We see these different forms of Goku here, and what this is, this raw power, this surge of energy. What really is that? It's like Jay said, it's chi, right? It's this life force energy. It's this vitality. As a martial artist, as someone who's actually walking the path of martial art, you learn about internal martial arts and you learn about health and how to cultivate your health, how to circulate your chi properly. Someone who is sick, someone who is having lymphatic issues, blood clots, the energy is getting clogged up, the energy's stopping, and when we have still water, this breeds algae, this collects dirt. We need this water to be flowing. And so here we see Goku. If y'all don't know who Goku is, where you been? Here we see Goku just going Super Saiyan. Literally, his energy is not just flowing in his body healthily, it's bursting and it's going up and surrounding his whole aura in flames. So this chi here, a key is this chi. This ki is another name for chi, is really his kundalini energy. Okay?
Yes, that Kundalini energy. Now, family, y'all already know life force energy, right? This is when it comes down to, okay, our mind and our consciousness is very important to take care of. And we're going to get into this because I've seen it on the other slides. We're going to get into this. But we have to always remember this, that the mind is all. And that, most of the time, it starts there, is what blocks this flow. Because really, Dragon Ball Z, a lot of anime for real, they're telling stories about people. about us. All these shows and stuff are telling stories about us, and they're putting it in their own way. But yeah, let's get into it.
Facts. And you will see that these stories, what is a story? A story is really a memory. And so we're telling these stories to pass down a specific current of energy, a specific memory. Whether it's an oral tradition from our ancestors, or whether it's a show like Dragon Ball that's teaching us how to develop strength, how to become the hero in our lives, and we'll get into that more.
Absolutely.
So the second slide, I like the Squidward gift because I felt like it really, it really anchored down, that feeling when you realize something. You're like,
facts.
Everything's different now.
Facts. It all starts with. I don't want to jump ahead of you, brother, but the awareness and observing is what leads to the realization, like you're saying. And when it hits you like an epiphany, that Squidward meme is perfect. Like that's really how I be feeling.
Exactly.
That's really how I be feeling.
So yes, yeah. This slideshow, I want it to be accessible for everybody because not everybody is Goku. Okay? Not everybody wants to transform into Goku. Some people want to transform into a doctor. Some people want to transform into an artist. Some people have I don't want to downplay, but some people have simple desires to where they just want to live a fulfilled life as a librarian, as a teacher, Yeah. And all of that is still activation, right? So to bridge our activated state, our higher state, to where we are now, we got to start where we're at now. Absolutely. And so this is why I started here with awareness, because this is where it's always going to be. Our home is awareness. And it's super important moving forward as we evolve and as we change, even just from children to young adults to, men and women. A lot of the times we forget who we are because we forget that first step. And that first step of awareness is so extremely important.
Absolutely.
So it all starts with that. It starts with our awareness. And as we cultivate our awareness, our soul grows.
Yes.
You feel me? Our awareness is our soul.
Absolutely. Because if you're not really aware, then you're not checked in. You're not tapped in for real. The only time you could really be tapped in and actually be, I like to say, alive, so to speak, is when you are in awareness. Because if you're not in awareness, then where else are you? You're in the past, which doesn't exist. You're in a possible future. You know what I mean? So are you really here? Are you alive?
Exactly. You get stuck in these habits, in this routine. That's a lunar spell. You become a lunatic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it could get that deep. It could get that far. I mean, we see it with people. We all know somebody who's a little loony. You know what I mean? Like it really comes down to that. It really comes down to that.
Yeah, and sometimes my energy gets like that when I get unbalanced. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So it's all about being balanced, and a safe place is your awareness. So let's really bring this down into earth on what we mean by going from being the observer, being awareness, and creating a realization. You see, we can see in the slide, it's broken down into these three categories of awareness, realization, and activation. And you can even see these two arrows that shows you the vehicle to get to the next step, the bridge, right? So to bridge ourselves from awareness, because right now this is where we are. We're here in this present moment, aware.
Yes.
This is our starting point. We will always return here. We will never leave this place. You see? And so being the observer, we observe through the mind. And so I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but the mind and the body in my tradition are the same thing. But we'll be breaking down specifically how to work with the mind and how to work with the body, even though they really are linked.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So through observing, through our mind, through our thoughts, our emotions, through knowledge, we develop this current, right? You know, we've all heard the phrase, knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
But see, knowledge is raw power.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is a current. But see, the current needs a path to flow. Or else it's just going to be chaotic.
Ashe.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So knowledge is power, and wisdom is how we direct that power. That's how we apply that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So going from awareness, and we're going to learn how to observe our mind to cultivate these realizations, to cultivate this wisdom. With this wisdom, with this realization, like Squidward's showing us how he realized something has to change. I can't keep living this way.
Yes.
I can't keep living this way. I'm suffering. I'm ignorant. You know, spirit is pushing me to be more, to do more. Something needs to change. And that's when you have that realization. Mm-hmm. And so through transformation, we activate. We apply that wisdom. We realize something is wrong, and we do the steps necessary to make a change in the world, or make the change in our heart.
Right, absolutely.
And we'll break down this whole thing more as we go through these slides.
Right. So like I love that you said, right, okay, the wisdom, like the wise dome, right? The way I see it is like the wisdom is the medium, right? The wisdom is the middleman in a sense, because the power is the knowledge, right? Knowing the knowledge, but it's like, where are you applying that knowledge? Or where, not even just where are you applying the knowledge, what knowledge are you applying? So
exactly.
And that's exactly that point right there. I feel like is a huge point that for you people watching right now, for the Old Soul family watching right now, because Drew dropped hella gems just now. But do not let that part go over your head. The wisdom, right? Knowing better. You see right here on the slide, it says, you know better is power. Knowing better is the doing better. After you know the better, you do the better, which is the action, activation, right? You cannot activate without the action. Application. There's a reason why these words sound alike, family. Like, it's not a coincidence. But let's move on to the next slide.
Yep, the words are that current.
Exactly.
That's that currency for real. That's what we giving each other right now.
Exactly. So you right here, you have empty your cup. Now, I have my own. There's something that comes to my mind, my own interpretation of what this means. But I want to hear what you meant by this, or what your intentions were when you put this.
Yeah. So let's take just a few steps back. You know, when we was talking about Goku activating, going Super Saiyan, crazy fiery plasma aura, right? And we mentioned how that's chi, that's vitality, that's kundalini energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have this huge amount of energy, this huge power, but you do not have the hardware, you do not have the container for this power, you're going to fry everything. Too much electricity, you're going to blow fuses. Too much energy in a container that's too weak, the container's going to crash, the container's going to break. So when we're moving forward, when we're transforming, when we're activating, it's so important that we create a container to hold this spirit. Even in simple things like Christianity. Not to say that Christianity is simple or like to downplay it, but even in Christianity, they talk about the Holy Spirit and how to embody the Holy Spirit. You see, properly, if you was to really address a system to walk with the Holy Spirit, you would learn how to create your mind, to create your body, to fill, to become the vessel for that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So emptying your cup is so important, because if we have these negative facets, this negative energy, right, and we evolve, if we grow bigger, that chaos is also going to grow bigger. It's just like Yosef always says, you can develop a negative solar body. What does that mean? When you are a negative person and you evolve into a position of power, you still have those negative qualities. So now you're going to cause more chaos, more destruction. Your punishments are going to be more severe from the divine, if I'm keeping it real. That's how that works. You know, so emptying your cup is step 0. It's before you do anything, you need to do the work to heal yourself, to cleanse your mind, to cleanse your body. Else, when you do activate, you're going to forget who you are. And I see it happen all the time. People get to this position of power, but because their foundation was shaky, they lose it. You know, I'm not spreading names out here, but it's like, you can tell when someone is damaged. You can tell when someone is fractured in their souls. You can tell when their soul fragment is fractured. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, brother. No, I mean, that's exactly what I thought you would be referring to when you said this. So emptying your cup. You broke it down perfectly, brother. Now, one thing I want to point out and mention what makes it so important, or just to give you another perspective of what my brother Drew here is saying. And by the way, before I even say that, I have to acknowledge, I see that we have 7 people in the chat right now, and we did not acknowledge any of them, or I have not acknowledged any of them. Peace to the family, peace to everyone that's in right now. So family.
Peace.
Emptying your cup, the way I see it is this. That foundation that Drew was talking about, and one of my favorite videos on my channel is, I believe it was basics before greatness. When you start off in any path, when you start off in growth, where you are, right? Your intention, what is the root of this? Where are you trying to get to with this? What do you want to use the power for? So if it's all about evolution, right? In a positive, light way, and you want to spread that light, you cannot expand your energy and your power if you're not coming from a pure place, if the source itself isn't pure. Because as you expand, as you grow, you're going to be spreading the energy that you start off with, the sources that you're starting off with. So in order for your growth to not get too chaotic, when that power grows, if there's too much negativity, if there's too much shadow, if there's too much darkness, if there's too much trauma, all you're doing is giving yourself more power to spread that energy. And as a collective, because it's all about the collective, right? The best way to help others is to help yourself first. The whole point of us growing as individual souls, as individual people, is to spread that energy. Whether you are fully focused on yourself, right? Emptying your cup, the whole point is the influence of the collective. It's affecting everybody. So when you do gain, let's say, right, that power, when you do really realize and tap into a power that's already within you, you have to make sure that you are the correct vessel, right? The right vessel to obtain that energy and to do right with it. That's why you hear the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Right. So we'll move on here to the next slide. Is create a pure mind. Look, just like what I was just saying, that pureness of what you're spreading, right? And it all starts with the mind. Now, brother, I'm gonna let you go ahead and read the slide.
Yeah. To create a pure mind. Now, a lot of people hear like, oh, meditation, I gotta meditate. That sounds like something I don't want to do. That sounds like something I don't know how to do. A lot of people don't know how to meditate, you know? And there are so many different ways that you can meditate. But like Jay was saying, it's all about your direction, your intention. Why am I doing these things?
Yes.
If you're meditating just to like, I don't know, go into a trance, like you might get into a trance and then what? Now what? You're gonna fall asleep maybe? Like, you have to have intentions going into what you're doing. So creating a pure mind, this is a very simple way to grow your soul, grow your awareness, and to discipline your mind. You see those two images down there, right? This is the diamond mind. This is the disciplined mind. How to discipline your mind. So when we're observing the mind, we return to our awareness. Just like right now, you have your thoughts in your head, and then you have the one that sees your thoughts. And see, when you're creating a pure mind, the key to keep in mind is, if I can see it, it's not me. If I can see it, it's not me. I see my body, but to identify with my body would be a mistake. I cut off my hand, I'm still just as much me, but now I don't have a hand, you know? So creating a pure mind is observing and returning to the observer, constantly, always, repeatedly going back to the awareness. When you're observing the mind, do not become fascinated with what you see. Once you become fascinated with what you see, you forget who you are and you become absorbed into the mind. That's how we all got here, if I'm being completely honest.
Right.
We all observed a desire, and we zoomed in so close on that desire that we magnetized ourselves to a reality where we could live and fulfill that desire, to fulfill that experience. And so there's nothing evil about the mind, but it's when we forget who we are that we become confused, and that we start to worship false idols. We start to think that we are the body, that we are the mind, when really we are awareness, pure awareness. So simply observe, acknowledge what you see, and return to your awareness. Here's one analogy that I love to share to my pupils. And this is also why I love to meditate in front of rivers. When you are sitting in front of a river, you can imagine the river as your mind. Things like leaves and sticks and fish may flow down this river, and you may observe them and see them come and go. But see, when you fixate on that leaf, on that thought that comes into your awareness, and you look at it for so long, and you hold on to that thought for so long, it flows all the way down the river until it goes far beyond the horizon, and you forgot what you're even looking at. You forgot completely you were just looking at a river. And so once you observe this river, once you observe your thoughts, you observe the influences from your body, and you continuously go back to being the observer, you start to develop your awareness. You start to separate the awareness from the mind, and you even start to separate the mind from the different thought forms, the different influences that are occupying your mind.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful analogy. I've heard of similar analogy like that. Honestly, the way that my brother Drew here put that is a perfect way for you to actually start to build the habit of meditation. To me, that is like, right there is the perfect start off point. And like we said in the beginning of the video, this is simple ways to activate your spiritual body and the mind, because we're on the topic of the mind right now. So observing the mind, right? So if you look at your mind, right, and you view the thoughts as things passing through the mind, right, and not subscribing to the thoughts, this is practicing that awareness, that true awareness of self, of the soul, of the spirit, looking above the identity. So observing, right, from a third person perspective is how you detach from these ideas that you've attached yourself from previously. Now, this could be you could simply build this habit, like the right habit. This is a good habit to build on a daily basis by just starting off there. Keep catching yourself in moments where you are experiencing life, you are fully immersed in it, And then take a moment, because this is a form of meditation in itself, right? Meditation, you don't always have to sit down in a quiet place with your legs crossed. You don't always have to go that route, right? If you want to get a little, like, take it to another level, sure. But right there and then is a form of meditation if you just pause. And I feel like the easiest way to explain it is putting yourself from a third person perspective. See the body as the vehicle, right? See what is happening, or not even see just the body as a vehicle. Like Drew said, see the mind as a river. See the things flowing through the river as you see your thoughts as things flowing through the river and passing by. And then when you go on to the next thing, you let it pass, but you always have to keep in mind, you are not the fish flowing through the river. Let it flow. And when you're doing that, you're actually acknowledging your real identity, right? Perfect way to put it, brother. Is there anything else that you wanted to add on to the slide here, or would you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah. I wanted to say too how you'll notice that we'll continuously touch back to previous things that we talked about. We're going to be building on these topics. So moving forward, I'm going to be talking about how to create a pure body. And like I was saying earlier, in my tradition, the mind and the body are intertwined. They're the same. But I'm breaking this down in more ways so that we can really look at it from a practical standpoint. We have to first separate our awareness from our mind if we can realize that our mind and our body are the same. So yeah, let's keep moving forward.
Gotcha, brother. And by the way, guys, I see there was a few questions in the chat. We're gonna get through the slides, and then we're gonna answer the questions at the end of the video. So you guys could, for the questions that are asked, you could just stay tuned for that.
Most definitely. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you all for the love. And yeah, we will be answering questions at the end. So any questions, just write them down. You can type them in the chat now, and at the end we'll have conversations and discuss what we talked about.
Right. Yeah, so you see the title, the slide title here is "Observation is Your Home. Never forget who you are."
Yes, and this is like a review of what we were just talking about. And I'll put this one in that code green, to subconsciously get your mind thinking right, because this is a reprogramming of your mind. When we're talking about, preparing this step 0 of cleansing and fasting, we have to fast our mind from ignorance, from illusions. We so long have been taught, you are this, this is how you will live, Let's look at this slide and remember that we are not the mind. Mm-hmm. We are not the body. We are pure awareness. Right. You can say that, but then say, but I can say that all I want, but I'm looking at my body and I've always been right here. Mm-hmm. Right? And the truth is, you've always been home. You've always been with your awareness. You've always been with your soul. But even when you weren't with your body, you were with your awareness. Even in the darkness, the complete absence of everything, when you're in that space of rest at night, even in that place, you were aware of that darkness. You are still home. So in this body, we are playing a role of a character. And everyone can have their own opinions on why we are alive, why we are this person. And as long as we don't forget who we really are, then this person can continuously transform. Continuously, we put to death our old self and we are born to our new self. You see, in this whole time, we never forget who we are. If we are identifying with, let's say we're an athlete, right? Let's say our higher self. Let's say we already activated, we're our higher self, we're an athlete, right? We're the star of the show. And all of a sudden we get an injury. And now I'm out the game for the rest of the season. Maybe even for a couple of years. That person, likely, if they've been identifying with that athlete, they're going to go through a huge ego death, if I'm being real. People are going to they've been identifying with this version of themselves that's immortal, that will die, so
Right.
the role that we're playing always is evolving, is always changing, and at the core, it has the same qualities of our soul, but at the core, we are uncreated. We are awareness before it decided to play this role. So when we're playing this role of a character, we're perceiving the life of our character. We're perceiving life through our character.
Right.
If we, awareness, wanted to experience the wind, but we had no body, how would we feel that wind? Do you think that a tree and a person feel the wind the same? Think about that. Different vehicles are going to give you different realities, different ways of perceiving the same truths.
Right.
So someone who is, I'll give an example. Someone who is me, Drew, that's my name I was given when I came here. I'm going to have thoughts that Drew has. I'm going to have feelings that Drew has. I'm going to have desires that Drew has. And you see, just like Jay said, by taking that third person perspective, I give myself the space to really observe. And instead of becoming fascinated with all these thoughts and these feelings and thinking I'm this person to the point where I'm just reacting to the habits that Drew has created, the thoughts that Drew has, the feelings that Drew has, if I'm only ever listening to this version of myself, then I'll only ever be this person of myself.
Right. Right.
Most people live human lives. They have human desires, human thoughts, human feelings, human habits. And I'm not putting it down, but this is where we're at. We are human. And so we're going to exist on this level of reality that we identify and that we live in, that we perceive life through. And if we never evolve beyond a human perspective, then we're only ever going to live a human life.
Absolutely. One thing I want to just mention really quickly, a key thing that you mentioned is the temporary. These identities and the ego, right? These labels that we give ourselves. They're temporary roles, like you said. The only thing that is not temporary is your awareness. So the whole idea with the ego dying, the version of yourself dying, and you moving on to a newer identity, death, that in itself implies that death is just a transition. Right, family? So understand when he says you are playing the role of a character and perceiving life through them, the character is built through the experience. The character is built of that experience that you've been experiencing, the life that you've been experiencing through this vessel. You have been building ideas for the character, and everyone around you has been building this idea and this identity for you. And that creates the cycle in the mind of which you act, right? And how you act. So what we're trying to do here is trying to get you to realize that you're not that exactly, that you're actually playing that character. And you're playing that character because of your perception, because of your beliefs of who you are. But once you start to put the intention of, once you start to tell yourself, literally, how do I look at myself as a person, as a being playing a character? That in itself is you practicing that. That's where it would lead to the realization. Like really quickly, I want to go back to this slide. You see what Drew is saying, how we're going to be touching on things and building things up. So the awareness, right? The awareness is you doing that, is you thinking that way. You starting to bring yourself back to the present. You starting to look at things without the judgment of what old soul Jay would look at things from, right? You looking at it from that third person perspective. That is the awareness. That is the observation. When you constantly do that, right? This is the practice, right? You're putting that into practice, right? Like Drew said before, spiritual, the ritual of doing this is what's going to lead you to the realization. This is what's going to make you wise. You're going to have moments, epiphanies, where like you're not going to just be saying it. You're going to be like, oh wait, I really am playing a character. I really am, like, that's that reaction that Squidward is having is literally going to be you when you keep putting that ritual into practice. You're gonna be like, oh wait, I'm not Old Soul J. I'm perceiving myself as Old Soul J. I'm appearing as that. I'm coming off to that to people. But what about to the people who don't know Old Soul J and they just see me out on the street? They just see a person, right? Then when you start to get to know somebody, then you start to give each other details about yourselves and what habits do you have and what your past has looked like. Things, that experiences that you have, is you getting to know the identity the role that we're all playing. That's where the realization. But when you have that realization, right, of who you are, that's where the wisdom comes in. And that's when you're able to tap into that higher self. And that's when it leads to the actualization, the application, because your higher self has the answers for you. That's what people talk about downloads. You're getting the answers from a higher source that you're tapped in with all the time, that awareness all the time. So to go back to this slide here, you getting in that practice, you doing the ritual of perceiving life from your higher self's lens is what is going to make you able, or build the room. Emptying that cup is what's going to make you start doing things that help you empty that cup and make room to actually know, right? The knowledge to actually know what is the actions that you should be and need to be taking to evolve. And as you see here, as you evolve and activate, all of this will change. You will begin to live a life as your higher self, walking in their shoes. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to tap into our higher selves. We're trying to tap into what that entails for us, what our higher self really wants us to be. We want to merge with the higher self.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have a pure mind. You know, going back to that third slide, we see that under awareness and observing, I put a mirror. And for y'all who actively, you know, see me in the real world, or, you know, hear me, my little nuggets of wisdom on social media, I say that the mind is a mirror, you see. And right now they have these spells casted all over the minds of everybody. You know, they dirtied up these mirrors. You know, it's hard to see clearly. If you have a foggy mirror, and you have a foggy mind. You know, and even more, things get more distorted when that mirror has a crack in it. Now things are looking rather strange. You know, so having a healthy mind, having a healthy mirror, is how we create a pure mind. You know, so we need to have clear reflections. You know, when we're observing ourselves, we're really reflecting. What do we see in this reflection? You know, I have thoughts. You know, my body tells me, oh, you know, you should eat this, you should eat that. But my wisdom is telling me you shouldn't eat that. You know, so why is my mind reflecting this light? It's because it's something that you need to face. It's something you need to confront. And that's why this is something I didn't put in the slides, but it's actually extremely important, is honesty. And not just honesty as in, you know, telling the truth, but transparency. That's what a clear mind is. It's transparent. You need to see things for what they are. You can't lie to yourself.
Yes.
That's sorry to need to be better. You good, bro.
I'm sorry, because that's a point that you made that I'm like very passionate about. I say it so many times on my channel. It's when I talk about truth is God, right? I've said that so many times. What I'm saying is being honest with yourself is God, because being honest with yourself is a way of tapping into your higher self. Like what Drew is saying, you have to actually be honest with yourself. But you could easily create this ego that lies to the self, and you believe your own lies for comfort. The ego's making you comfortable. You don't. It's not about comfort. That's the devil. Honestly, when the comfort goes against the truth of you being truthful to yourself, that's the devil. In my opinion. But you can continue what you were saying, Drew.
Because like one thing that the ego will do to try to preserve itself, because, you know, like I said, this is a little more advanced slideshow, but like the ego, its whole function of existing is to keep you alive. That's why we have an ego. Because when we were animals running around in the world, things was trying to eat us. You know what I'm saying? Like when we are in a community, right? The reason we have social anxiety is because our egos are designed to survive in a community. So if we're not liked in our community, that threatens our survival. Mm-hmm. You know, the ego. But the ego isn't up to date. The ego is running off a code. You feel me? It's running off our habit. It's running off our rituals, our discipline.
Right. Our ancestors' DNA.
Thoughts that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
For sure.
So the ego, you know, it's going to try and stay alive, but transformation is death, if I'm being real. Transformation, life and death are the same thing. Death is transformation of life. You see, so if we're going to live to who we really are, we have to die to who we really aren't, who we thought we were.
Facts.
We thought we were this person. Like even me recently, I came to the realization that I was worshiping false idols. That I didn't realize, hold up, I became lost, and I started to identify with the spirit rather than the soul. As much as the spirit is a reflection of my soul, I am the awareness behind the spirit. This spirit is moving through me like an instrument, is moving through my body like an instrument. It's the sound that I play, but I am not the music. I am the one who plays the music, you know? So we're constantly going through the cycle of awareness, realizing, remembering who we are and returning to this awareness, but now with more wisdom, with more power, with more things to apply.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this next slide is once again simple meditations. You know, we talk about how to create the pure mind. You know, your meditations, your disciplines are going to shape the habits of your mind, or it's going to shape the structures of your mind. You see, when we're becoming our higher selves, there's a certain way our higher self thinks. There's a certain way our higher self feels. A certain routine our higher self does every day. A lot of those things your higher self already told you what to do every day, but we don't listen. Mm-hmm. You know, we think that like what we're doing, like Jay's saying, is more comfortable. It feels better. You know, going that way is scary. It's new, it's unknown. I don't want to do that. That could lead to death. You know, but the truth is, we need to die to our old self. So the old self that wants to be lazy, that wants to be an alcoholic, that wants to just do nothing with their divinity, with their purpose, with the gifts they were given, you know, that person needs to go. And once you decide, I can't keep living like this, once you realize, I can't keep living like this, and you really desire to do something more, then you have to implement the habits, you have to implement the discipline to change. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, here's an example. Someone who smokes e-cigarettes, right? Because I used to smoke e-cigarettes. I don't smoke e-cigarettes anymore. Someone who smokes e-cigarettes, it was easy to develop that discipline of smoking an e-cigarette. It was easy to develop that habit, that ritual of continuously smoking that. It was easy to develop it. But creating discipline in the other direction, you're going to have to basically take all of that momentum and reverse it. And so some people think, oh, I've already walked too far from the creator. I've already done so much harm. There's no reversing it. There's no turning it back. But the truth is, that's a lie. That's a thought. That's an influence from your ego, from what wants to stay comfortable, what wants to stay here. You have to develop a pure mind to observe that and to discern, what is this spirit trying to influence me? Is this my higher self?
Mm-hmm.
As we define our higher selves, it becomes easier to realize what you need to be doing.
Right.
I'm not giving anyone any specific set of things to transform, because everyone's going to transform differently.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own rituals, their own routines to become the best version of themselves.
Right.
So, from my perspective, I'm going to be showing y'all the perspective of a warrior. I do yoga, so I would identify myself as a yogi. You feel me? My character as a yogi, as a martial artist, as a warrior. So I'm going to be showing you guys how I transform through my martial art, through my yoga. But you can apply this same formula to anyone, to the simplest kinds of desires. If you want to be a librarian, then you better be reading. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you want to become a Super Saiyan, you better be training every single day. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Absolutely. It's also like, as the awareness that doesn't have like any identity as like the human identity, the higher self wants you to develop some type of identity. But it's like, what identity are you developing? It's all about like, and another thing what Drew said, like about, oh, it's too late for me, or I always look at it like being down a hole. It's never too late. Your mind is your own limitation, right? You could, like, of course, it's very unlikely that people would do this, but you could be a person who does the worst things every single day, have the worst negative habits, and then the next day you could decide, I am not that person anymore. Now, granted, it's gonna take a lot of work to break those habits, most likely, but you can always decide. When you actually decide, it's all on your mind. It's all on your mind. So this is the thing. People say they decide things, but you don't really decide until you actually start really like, okay, no matter what, this is what I'm doing. Period. So right here it says, while doing an asana, you're breathing through the work. Your thoughts arise and you let them burn. Your body sweats and heats up. Stress exists and space enters. In that space, you create strength. You return to awareness. So, brother, I'm curious here. When you say your body sweats and heats up, right? You're talking specifically about the asana, the certain specific asanas that you're doing when your body starts to sweat and heat up in certain positions, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, I also do yoga myself. And, they say yoga is like developing the God body. And one of the key things that I feel is very, very, a realization that I had in the past about the power of yoga is that it's like its own form of meditation, but it's a more advanced way because you're not just meditating, you're also in certain asanas. You're doing certain asanas, which are, I guess you can say, postures, right? I guess you could say they can be uncomfortable sometimes, or they take real intention. So when you're doing a form of meditation in that way, it's a more advanced version. So you're taking it to the next level in that sense. And that's why it says when you return to awareness, you're building that muscle, right? You're building that muscle of training the mind to get to awareness when you do something as like yoga.
Facts. And like I said, I'm going to be telling you guys from the perspective of a warrior, because I am a warrior. And so yoga, I found, is an amazing, like Jay's saying, it's a meditation. It's a routine that you do all the time. I do my primaries every day. And I feel great when I do it. When I don't do it, I notice a difference in my mind, in my body.
Absolutely.
So yoga is a consistent practice that you can do. And like Jay's saying, it's hitting all these cylinders. It's working out your physical body. I'm telling you, like, the specific yoga that I do is Ashtanga yoga. You'll notice that Ashtanga yogis have broader shoulders, often a wider chest. They stand a certain way. You know what I'm saying? That's memory. That's discipline that you can see activated in their body right there. So when you're doing these postures, you're breathing through these postures. And when you're breathing through these postures, you have what is called samskaras that arise. And samskaras are like the divots in your brain. You see, when two neurons have an electrical connection, right? And that goes back to that chi, that lightning. When those neurons have an electrical connection, they actually create a physical divot in your brain. And that's how you get these wrinkles in your brain. These patterns over time form deep crevices. That's physical memory being held, right? So when a samskara is like a ego, it's like a habit that arises, right? It's very deep samskaras. You can think of it like a scar, right? Very deep samskaras are, prejudices, belief structures, trauma, right? We have these things, before we heal them, we have these things so deeply integrated into our pathways, into our thinking, that is the only way our energy, our current, our knowledge, our power can flow, is only those paths that we have buried deep. We can go anywhere, but water, electricity flows a lot like water. It will go where there's the least amount of resistance. As you create these patterns, this discipline, it physically gets ingrained into your brain. So when we're doing asana, when we're breathing through postures, samskaras, ego arises, and this is the perfect opportunity to acknowledge it and let it go.
Yeah.
These thoughts naturally dissolve.
Yes.
And when it dissolves back to raw power, that's you getting your power back.
Exactly.
You're breathing through the work. You're creating a vehicle, a vessel for that energy to leave your body. You're heating up. You're creating this chi. You're even sweating. That's physical memory. Your sweat is physical memory leaving your body. The heat of your breath even. This says stress exists. It's supposed to say exits. Stress exits the body when you're doing these postures. And in that space, you create strength. By continuously acknowledging the thoughts that are arising when you're doing your yoga. When you're doing your yoga, you're thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to work out. But see, anyone who goes to the gym knows that's one of the best ways that you can actually motivate yourself is through your self-talk, through your self-image, and we'll get to that more. But by saying to yourself, this is hard, you're going to experience a difficult experience, but when you just bring yourself back to awareness, all of that fades away. And instead of constantly feeling like you need to micromanage and control this narrative, you can just let go and let that ego burn. Let that be purified. That's what fire does. It purifies things. And you return to your awareness. That space that you created, that strength that you created is peace.
Right. And, earlier we were talking about emptying the cup. This right here is a actual action that will empty your cup. This is why it's part of activation. But of course, this is a type of habit that you would want to build, because you're gonna constantly, well, it depends on your walk of life and where you're at, but there's a lot to burn, right? There's a lot of that those traumas and those stress and those things that need to burn. The stress, you have to continue to let it exit. Some people let it build up. You don't want that. You do not want that, family.
Yeah, and it's okay. We have to admit things, if we're ever to move forward. So we have to acknowledge that we are ignorant.
Yep.
It's in Ayurveda, it's called Advaita, and Advaita is like a film. Like, imagine your soul as a bright, brilliant light, and Advaita is this film that has accumulated on the top, on the surface, that blocks out this light. And through doing asana, through doing specifically yoga, you're burning this ignorance away. But first we have to acknowledge that it's there. And, Yosef gave me a key the other day. He said, you can't know yourself if you don't love yourself.
Yep.
So you have to accept who you are. Even if who you are is not who you want to be, you have to accept where you are now.
Yes.
And still choose to be kind to yourself. To
Absolutely.
love yourself. And that doesn't mean to spoil yourself. Being kind to yourself doesn't mean I'm just going to eat whatever my flesh tells me. No, it means you're going to do what's wise.
Right, that's actually being kind to yourself. Like, really taking care of yourself, really loving yourself is doing what's right, no matter how it makes you feel. So,
yeah. I wanted to say also, so that first paragraph is talking about yoga, specifically yoga asana. I want to give people multiple ways, that they can transform. You feel me? So not everybody is going to want to do yoga. Not everybody is a yogi. That's completely fine. There are other ways that you can cleanse your body, cleanse your mind, and have health, have the routines necessary to become your higher self. But I recommend any warrior, anyone who does MMA, any type of person who does physical activity, who loves to be active, you should give yoga a shot. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. I second that.
My bad, brother. What'd you say?
No, I just said I second that. Yoga's it. Yoga, I love yoga.
Yeah, bro. For real. Like, it changed my life. Like, my martial arts, once I realized, like, I get depressed when I don't do my energy work. And one time, like, the last time I really had a depressive episode, I was depressed for like 2 weeks, and I was like, man, I don't know just how to break this. And one day I finally decided I'm going to go out to the river and I'm going to do Qigong. I did Qigong for like 90 minutes and my depression was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know what I need to do now, and it's about doing it now.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It's really that simple.
Go ahead, brother.
No, I just said it's really that simple sometimes.
Yeah, for real. We tend to overthink, and the reality is stupid people get more things done than smart people, because smart people overthink it and stupid people take more action.
Yep.
Even if they make mistakes, they get more done. You know?
Your mind can hold you back. Your mind really, our own minds is really like the only thing that really holds us back, for real.
Exactly. And so this next practice will actually help to free you of your mind, because a lot of us are enslaved by our own minds. I can say for myself, at a point in my life, I struggled with anxiety. I would have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I was diagnosed with even PTSD at one point because of my traumas. I didn't know how to deal with this mind matter. I wasn't sure. No one taught me, but I learned. And, the first part, like we've been saying, of getting control over your mind again is to recognize your mind, observe your mind. And now that you can observe your mind, now we have to discipline the mind. Mm-hmm. So that's what asana will do. But another thing that you can do is candle gazing. Candle gazing is something I started doing, and it will evolve your consciousness dramatically if you're disciplined with it. A candle is directly connected to the sun. So by candle gazing, you're actually really sun gazing as well. Mm-hmm. From a metaphysical perspective. Mm-hmm. So when you're gazing at your candle, when you first start, you'll notice that this flame will flicker. And even just gazing and keeping completely still, you'll notice your eyes kind of do a little shaking, kind of dark, Focusing on that flame becomes difficult. But the more that you discipline, the more that you do this practice, it becomes easier and easier to remain concentrated on that flame. Even when it's moving, dancing, and even to the point when you evolve and you start seeing all sorts of shapes and different faces even in the flames sometimes, you can really hold that perception, you can hold that awareness because your focus has been trained. You've trained your concentration. And candle gazing is a great way to do this. Traditionally, in yoga, you will do what is called Trikhata. And I'm not sure if anyone has heard of Trikhata, but Trikhata is a practice that you can do, and it's said to give you perfect eyesight.
Really? I've never heard of this before. You said you don't have perfect eyesight?
Yeah, I said I'm not a doctor though.
Oh, right.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a health professional. Okay, this is for information purposes only.
Right. Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
Throw that in there.
So Trikhata, the traditional way that you train Trikhata is you put a dot, like a really small dot or like a nail, and you hammer it into the wall, and then you stand about like 20 feet away, or like you can start from like 6 feet, but I think it's like 20 meters away or something, and you'll stare at that dot, and you'll just fix your gaze upon that dot. And that's another way that you can train your mind like this, because not only are you training, physically focusing on that dot, but while you're doing that, you're going to have all sorts of thought forms coming in. You're going to have your mind showing up. Is anyone home? And you don't answer the door. When we go to sit down and do our meditation, we have our daily responsibilities. Hey, you got that thing to go on. You could do this 20-minute meditation, or you could do a 5-minute meditation, and you could get this laundry movement, blah, 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 blah. The mind is constantly desiring your attention, because the truth is, the mind only exists because you exist. It only has power because you gave it power.
Right.
So every time the mind knocks and says, is someone home? And you don't answer, eventually the mind will check in less and less and less, until eventually your mind is empty, but really it's full. It's full of awareness.
Hold on, brother. Listen. I'm sorry, because I get really passionate. Do not let that go over your head. Drew is spitting some gems right now. I'm over here listening, and I'm like literally envisioning myself and envisioning like my own life experience and seeing examples in my mind of when this happens. Because these are practices that he's speaking about. Like I said earlier, I like yoga. I used to candle gaze. I meditate all the time. That is a perfect way to describe it. When your mind comes knocking and you you not answering the door, it will knock less and less. And that space that you're in, where the mind, when you don't let the mind in the door, that is awareness of like what he's saying. Family, be intentional about this. What he is talking about, be intentional about this. When your mind, these practices are tools. Literally, they're literally tools for you to tap into a part of yourself, a version of yourself that's already there. But in this experience of life, we need certain practices and actions to help us get there. So what he's saying right there is super key, right? It's simple. But the thing is that we live in a world where we want things instantly. Like he said, in the beginning, your mind will knock as anyone home. But eventually, it's going to visit less and less. So you just have to keep doing that and keeping that in mind. Once you start to think like, oh man, I've been meditating every day for a week. And right there, before I even continue, that's me letting the mind in. Keep doing it. Just keep doing it. That's how we lead to the realizations. But you can continue, brother. Like, I really have to drill it into your mind, though. No pun intended. To really get this is what I'm doing.
I love what you had to say, Jay, because I feel like sometimes I get kind of far out there, and that's why I love working with you, because you can always reel it back in, ground me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, brother, because it's like I'm following you, and I'm picking up the gems that you're dropping, but I'm also thinking about what another person could be thinking, and I'm like, all right, hold on, this is a lot that he's giving right now, and you have like, it's important that people really like absorb it, you know what I mean? But yeah, brother,
we need that, bro, we need you, bro.
for sure. Are you ready to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think we can move on to the next slide. And I know we're gonna touch on this later, but I wanted to say, like we were saying, like meditating, keep doing it, you know. But the thing is about spirit rituals, spirit reality, is you have to be doing the correct rituals. You have to be doing the correct practices. You see, just like a martial artist, if you're practicing a punch, you could practice it 10,000 times and you'll be really good at that punch. But see, if you're practicing and you're throwing it with an incorrect form, you're going to have 10,000 reps of incorrect forms. And now you still got work to do. You know, so we got to make sure that we're doing the right practices, that we're doing the right meditations for us. And so, you know, when it comes to especially our bodies, this is where I really want to, like, you know, not to say stress, but this is where I really want to drill how important it is that we know ourselves, that we observe ourselves, and that, you know, we develop our routines around who we are, what kind of lives we need to live. So, like we had said, you know, the mind and the body are one, but we first, you know, it's like imagine you were looking to clean your room, right? You could say, oh man, it's hard to think in this room with all this chaos, with all these things everywhere.
Yeah.
You could start to vacuum and dust things up, but it makes sense, you know, to start with the most dense, simplest things. Oh, okay, if I need to clean this room, I might as well get all the laundry together first, you know? If I need to vacuum the ground, I'm gonna clean the ground first. I'm not gonna vacuum over all this, you know, garbage, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when it comes to creating a pure mind, if we don't have a pure body, we're constantly gonna be working against ourselves. You know, if we're eating nonsense, our mind is gonna think nonsense.
Facts. You are what you eat.
So, creating a pure body. And I know we were just talking about food, so let's touch that first. Learning your personal diet and routines. This comes from developing a sensitivity towards yourself. By observing myself more, I can sense and discern the difference between what is a genuine signal from my body that says nourishment and what is a signal from my body that says craving, you know? Because our bodies are an accumulation of cells and microorganisms all working together to create this macroorganism. And whether you have realized this or not, I'll let you know now. All of those little tiny cells are thoughts. They're thought forms. And they actually contribute to your river, to your stream of consciousness. And our gut is responsible for our intuition. You know when people say, oh, I got a gut feeling about that.
Brother, you just reminded me, as soon as you said, like, if you eat garbage, your mind is garbage, the first thing that came into my mind is that your gut is your second brain. And
we all know it.
Yeah, exactly. Continue, though.
Yeah, we all know. You know, that's where we get our intuition. That's our gut feeling. We should always listen to our gut feelings, you know, because the reality is our gut communicates to our brain more than our heart communicates to our brain. So our gut is responsible for our intuition, is responsible for a lot of the communication from spirit. So when we have, I don't know, parasites in our gut, guess what? Those parasites influence your thoughts. Now people might be crawling in their skin like, oh, that's gross to think about. I'm gonna push that away. I'm gonna block that out. I'm letting you know that's a function of your ego.
Facts.
Your ego feels adverse to things it doesn't like and goes towards things it does like.
Facts.
You gotta remain still. You gotta see this for what it is. And you gotta see that not all the influences I'm having are from me. You gotta realize that things can influence my thoughts and sound like me that aren't me.
Facts. Facts, brother.
So learning your personal diet, learning self-knowledge, there's a whole lot of trickster spirits who desire to be you. Because believe it or not, you are amazing. You're great. And all these thoughts, all these spirits, all these tricksters, they can only exist if you permit them to exist in your universe. So you have to discern who deserves what I have to give. I know who I am. Am I going to let these thought forms, these spirits that do not wish the best for me, am I going to let them live in my reality? You gotta make the decision to change. You gotta realize that when I'm eating this, people be calling it goy slop now. When I'm eating this ignorance, when I'm eating this slop, it's creating slop. I'm not valuing my health.
Facts.
You know?
Yeah.
So everyone's got a unique diet, because the truth is, you can transmute anything. I can transmute all the chaos I want. I can eat a bunch of honey buns if I want, and I'll be okay. But I'm gonna suffer. I'm gonna feel it in my gut.
You're gonna pay for it.
And I'm gonna have to digest all that nonsense.
Yep.
And I'm gonna have to cleanse it all throughout my body again. So in the beginning, diet is important, but as you evolve, as you transform into your higher self, your diet becomes less and less relevant, you know? But it is important, especially in the beginning, to have a clean diet, you know, to eat according to how you want to transform. And I want to say, you know, not everybody needs to be fasting, you know? Not everybody needs to be eating the same diet. Believe it or not everybody needs to be a vegan. You know, as amazing as, in my opinion, as amazing as eating light foods, you feel light, not everybody needs that. Some people, their ancestors are designed to eat flesh, like a real talk. So it's like, you need to know yourself to know, is that you? Is that me? And you do that through observing yourself and being honest with yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
And I put a note here at the bottom because I wanted to bring up very quickly, you know, do not eat ignorance and negativity. And I put in bold, underlined, witchcraft. Okay?
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I'm sure everybody is wondering what's going on there.
Yeah, so, and I will be talking about, if you know me in person, you know I already talk about this a lot. The creator actually assigned me specifically to educate everybody on witchcraft. So moving forward, I will be talking about, you know, more about how witchcraft is actually being done to you. And that's not to put fear into your mind, it's to put awareness into your mind. Because once you know, you have the power to make a decision and change. You feel me? So
facts. That's why I'm telling you.
Yes. So what you're eating, if you're reading these ingredients and you said, what is that? I don't know what Yellow Lake 5 is. I've never heard of, you know, TBHQ growing from a tree. I've never heard of the TBHQ tree. Okay, so these ingredients, when you actually look into these ingredients, you start to come to a realization. Once you start observing, oh, this is what I'm eating, and you look at these ingredients, you look this up, you realize, oh, TBHQ is petroleum. I didn't know I was eating petroleum. Like, it sounds crazy, but the reality is, these artificial ingredients, preservatives, dyes. This is really witchcraft. Now, as much as they might be creating, Yellow Lake 5, or TBHQ, for example, they might be creating TBHQ to create a wonderful preservative for a Reese's cup. Our Reese's cups must stay fresh. That is that witch's intention. But see, the witch doesn't care about the negative side effects. Doesn't care that TBHQ causes allergies, respiratory issues. It doesn't concern the chemist that TBHQ will alter your genome expression and that will weaken your immune response. He's not concerned with that. He's only concerned with preserving his Reese's cup. Okay? So when we're eating foods, you need to avoid these specific poisons, because these specific poisons are put into our body to lock down our DNA. And that's exactly what activation is activating our DNA. So by eating witchcraft, this is what it is for real. By eating things like petroleum, you are doing witchcraft upon yourself. And as much as you say, I didn't know, now you know. So if you're going to keep eating these things, it's going to keep you on lockdown. So you have to make the decision. You have to value, what it is you're eating. You have to value your clarity if you're ever to get rid of these things that keep fogging up your mind.
Absolutely.
And once you value that, it's easy to make a decision. It's easy to stay disciplined. As someone who used to smoke e-cigarettes, I don't smoke e-cigarettes because I value my breath. I value my willpower. I value my mind to where I don't want a spirit occupying my mind telling me, hey, you need to hit a vape. You can't leave the house. You don't have your box with you. Nah. I recognized that spirit and I valued my own too much that I had to get rid of it. It had to go. And so as much as I was receiving thoughts from my flesh, from those chemicals, from those pathways saying, hey, you should smoke, it was easy to say no to that because I already had my mind set on my discipline, on my decisions. You feel me?
When your mind is set, your mind is set. It's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
When it's set, it's unshakable. Gems, brother.
So this next slide, this is to give people, and I don't know how long we've been going.
We've been going, brother.
We've been going. I know we got a few more slides, so let's keep rolling through it. And I'll remind everybody, if you could leave a like on the live, I think there's like 5 people in right now. That would be awesome. Get the stats up on the video, help get it out to people.
For sure.
Okay. So this next slide, this is, I would say, pretty common knowledge. There's different systems of these body types. The names Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, those are the Ayurvedic terms. But you can also use these elemental terms of wind, fire, and water and earth. So these 3 body types, this is basically just a easy tool to help you kind of start off with what you need to do in terms of your body, in terms of like your diet, for example, or in terms of like what kind of meditations to do. Because everyone is different. Everyone's going to activate differently. So just real quickly, we'll go over this. You have the 3 body types. The first body type is the wind body type, and that's me. I'm a skinnier guy, As strong as I am, I'm thin, right? I'm quick. And like I said, I used to struggle with anxiety. So people who have the wind body type often are physically anxious, literally shaking, they overthink. They have a very active mind, often are very intelligent, but that any body type can be extremely intelligent. So the wind body type, you don't need to fast all that much. You're already very thin. You already move through energy very quickly. You don't need to be fasting all that much. Me personally, when I do fast, and I fast too much, I kind of become unbalanced and towards that lunar side. I mean, I'm already rather empty. And so by fasting and becoming emptier and emptier, I lose my desire, if I'm being real, to be on Earth. Even not to say that I'm suicidal. I'm not suicidal, but just meditating and overdoing things, I become unbalanced and
you get spiritually high.
Yeah,
No earthly good.
You need to remain grounded.
Yeah,
but that goes to the other type, the water or earth type, the kapha type, and these body types are more bigger, more slower moving, and they naturally meditate already. Already their thinking goes very deep, very to the point. This is the words of my master. He said they think very slow and methodical. You can ask these body type people, and they know exactly what I'm talking about right now. They naturally are already meditating. They're already feeling very deeply on things. And these kapha body types, they need more movement. The wind is already very active. They love to move. The kapha element needed more movement. They need to wake up. The wind person needs to calm down. They're already too active. They need to calm down. The kapha person needs to wake up, right? And you can kind of see how those two body types need to balance each other out. You can look at the other and see, how you can learn from each other. And this third body type, which is, I wouldn't say it's the most common, but it's in the middle here. It's
brother,
a fire body type.
Brother, your audio started getting a little scratchy there. Did anything?
No, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you sound much better now. It got scratchy for a little moment.
Okay, I got you. All right. So yeah, let's keep moving through this presentation because we in here.
On to the next.
So yes,
did you go over the fire? I don't know if you went over the fire. You went over the fire?
Yeah. I still got this fire type. So I know a lot of fire types. Especially like I would consider myself like very closely related to the fire element, although I am, I have this wind body type. These fire people are extremely direct. They're physically moderate. They're very active people. A lot of them are athletes. These fire type people, and you'll notice they have a very penetrating speech. It's like when they talk and it goes right into you. Mm-hmm. You feel me? These fire type people, sometimes they can be quick to anger. Part of what they need to do is they need to work with their emotions more. They need to do that work of, being still and controlling that fire. If you don't control fire, it'll burn chaotically. So
right.
These fire type people, they need one thing to focus on. Mm-hmm. And just let them go at it, and they will burn it to the ground. You know what I'm saying? The best way possible.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They'll build it up. So you need to give these people, if you're this person, and you know which body type you are. If you're a fire person, you need to have something to direct your passion, to direct your energy to.
Yup.
Or else it's going to be burning chaotically.
Yup. I like to mention that I'm definitely a fire type. For sure. Like every single thing here listed definitely resonates with me on a deep level, and especially with the need to focus on one thing, right?
Yeah.
So like for my other fire types that may be watching, I can't stress this enough that needing to focus on one thing is so important, because we have so much fire, right? So much of that energy to give, and you need to pour it into something. And finding the right things to pour it into, finding that right thing to pour it into is the best way to use it. But here we can move on to the next slide here. Nature is the key.
Yeah.
Nature is the key.
Yeah, and I'm a shout out. A shout out to the big bro Broly, for real, because part of a large influence on how I activated was another avatar here, in America. I believe he's out in Atlantis right now. That's what we call it. You feel me? But he came up in Detroit over here in Michigan with me, Not that we grew up together, but I'm saying we incarnated over here. You feel me? So shout out to Broly, because he has been stepping for real. He's been doing the work, and he's been inspiring me and showing me that, yo, this path is actually very simple. As complex as you can make it, you just got to do it. You feel me? So Broly, he's really shown me that it's actually quite simple to be out in nature all the time. And the truth is, nature will help you activate. Nature will activate you. Nature, our nature, is our source. So nature is the key to remembering who you really are. You see, all this artificial living, you know, all these structures that we created that aren't in alignment with this higher version of ourselves that we're looking to transform into, if these structures are outdated, they're just holding us back. So be in nature, especially barefoot. Walking barefoot, as a warrior, especially walking barefoot, you will get so much stronger. And even on a mental, on an emotional level, walking barefoot, you will get so much stronger, because I do this. I just walk around in the street on concrete barefoot, and people just look at me. Some people think I'm crazy. Some people start recording me. Some people think I'm homeless. And even that is training. Like, you know, even in this world where, you know, they want. Nah, I ain't gonna say that.
You like, wait, I'm about to take it. You about to take us down the whole.
But it's like, we live in a world that shuns, you know, not to say I'm a prophet, but we live in a world that shuns prophets. You know, we shun our natural way of living. We wasn't born with shoes, dog. So why are you looking at me so weird that I don't got shoes? like I'm an alien, you feel me?
Yeah.
But being barefoot is so important, that having that connection, having that textural, that's another thing I put on here, having that textural experience, you know, really being in nature and being aware, because that's required when you're in nature. You know, obviously on a little nature path, you don't have to worry about a tiger jumping up at you. But Mother Nature designed her program to build our awareness. You have to be alert in nature. You have to be aware in nature. You know, if I'm walking barefoot, I can't just be stepping on glass and stepping on nails. I have to be aware. You feel me?
Right. Facts.
So being in nature, returning to natural living, you know, moving water, fresh moving water. And I'll say this, even if you can bathe in like a private stream, in a private river with fresh water, if you do that and you don't take showers with like the city water, you will remember way quicker who you really are. Like all of this, I'll just keep it a buck because this is old information, but all the fluoride in the water calcifies your pineal gland. You feel me? It's gonna lock you down. You feel me? So going in nature, nature's gonna wake you up. That's what she's supposed to do. You know, so do your yoga in the grass. Sleep under the stars. Doing your yoga in the grass is another way to evolve your warrior self. You know, I don't get itchy from grass anymore. Like it's super, like, you know, rush grass, you know, super sharp and thick. Like I'll feel it, but like I don't mind being covered in grass and dirt and mud. Like that doesn't bother me. It shouldn't bother me. It shouldn't bother you. But you know, we become so accustomed to this artificial living that, you know, we forgot what it means to really be who we really are. You know, it feels so freeing to be in nature. You know, to just live without any distractions, without any noise, and that's what that subheader says. It says less noise, more signal. You know.
Nature is definitely like our natural habitat, you know, so I feel what you're saying on a deep level, brother. Like anytime where I feel that I'm losing my way a little bit or the stresses are getting to me, a simple grounding, walking in some grass works wonders. And then using the mind, combining Mother Nature's natural healing properties with the power of your mind is I don't even know what word to call it. The most healing thing there's a couple of things I will put on the top tier of what heals my soul, but one of the most healing things for me is when I stand in some grass and visualize energy being pulled out from below my feet. Basic grounding, really. And literally that changes how I feel for days on end afterwards. I could feel the energy on a different level. Even when I'm inside, all the time when I'm inside, sometimes when I'm sitting on my couch, like I have this balcony next to my couch, is this window, like this door, like a window door. And nature, the trees outside is literally always, I can feel it pulling me and calling me. And when I'm just sitting there, I'm always turned, because my couch is this way. The door is on my right side. And when I'm sitting there, if my TV screen isn't pulling me the wrong way, if my TV screen isn't on, I'm looking outside. And I'm not doing that with any actual intention. The energy is pulling me that way. Right? And I look at that as Mother Nature calling you. And, I've seen scientific research or scientific experiments speaking about how it naturally releases, I believe it's endorphins or dopamine in our mind from just looking at nature, right? So there's just so many different examples of why we are nature. I mean, I have a video on here literally titled "We Are Nature," but there's so many, and that's exactly we are harmony with nature. So we always have to keep that in mind. We always have to remind ourselves that living in today's society, to not get too detached from nature, because nature is our natural habitat. And it will bring you back to balance at the very least if you're out of whack and out of balance, for sure.
Most definitely. And I think that's a great bridge. Another point on here is to watch the sunrise and the sunset. That's a natural rhythm that we've evolved with for generations upon generations. So the glands in your brain responsible for hormone distribution, which are the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. Your pituitary gland, and I might be wrong, but your pituitary gland regulates the distribution of your hormones, and the pineal gland actually creates those hormones. So when you're watching the sun rise and the sun set, that is setting your circadian rhythm and telling your pineal gland, which is the gland that is hypersensitive to light, it's telling your pineal gland that it is daytime and it is nighttime. And you see, just by getting in tune with that natural clock, your body will balance itself out. Like Jay is saying, your body will naturally harmonize with nature. And when your energy levels are synced up with a natural rhythm, you're going to have a consistent pattern. But see, when let's say you watch the sunset and then you go inside and you have all these overhead lights, your pituitary gland is perceiving that light above your head as the sun. It's telling yourself, it's high noon right now. I need to be, creating and distributing these hormones, when really, no, you need to be creating melatonin. I'm about to go to sleep. So by putting these artificial, signals, these artificial structures in our life, it disrupts our natural rhythm. So nature is key, returning to our natural rhythm. So with this next slide, this is once again a little review. Now that we have, we've given you the tools to cleanse your mind, to cleanse your body. And now that we have a clear mind, a clear body, that's step zero. You feel me? That's the foundation. We need to, like we were saying, if we're going to have this surge of energy, we have to make sure that our container is built for it. If we're going to be holding boiling lava, I can't use a plastic cup. Real talk. You feel me? So now that we have this clear mind and body, we don't have false identities. We don't have these shadows. blocking our truth. We don't have this trauma distorting our intentions. If we didn't do this work, we would be doing it for the wrong reason. If you didn't do the work of healing why you were bullied, you're going to grow up and be a warrior because you want to be a bully. That's the truth. You have to do this work of, removing the illusions. If I think I'm this one thing, and I grow up and I evolve and I realize I'm not this person, I've done all this work and I've created a reality based around this person, and now all of this has to go. So when we have a clear mind, a clear body, our natural state will arise. Our soul will be able to express itself as authentically as it can. There's nothing in the way anymore. So this next slide is actually doing the work. So, we've done the work of cleansing our mind, cleansing our body. We have this clarity now. And so now it's about actually doing the routines, doing the disciplines. We realize that something needs to change, and now we're doing the work to actually apply and to actually change our lives. And so, like I said, from a warrior's perspective, I'm training, like physically, I'm training, mentally, I'm training my emotions, I'm training my finances, my habits, my routines. But the key to training is to train with joy. You don't want to be going to the gym and hating it, because you're going to be battling yourself the whole time. You go to the gym and you do it with a smile on your face. I do my yoga and I can't help it but smile, but to feel amazing, to feel grateful that I even have a body that can do this, that some people don't even have all 5 fingers on their hand. I'm grateful that I can, hold this bind, hold this grip. So, training is actually doing the work. Your training is your routine, your discipline, and it's sacred. Training is sacred. You can't just be treating it like it's, something on the side, like it's just a habit that I do every once in a while. Like, no, your training is sacred. You'll learn to love it. It's a relationship that you have, if I'm being real. You want that relationship to be healthy. You want it to be kind. You're not going to show up in a relationship where you don't feel valued, where you don't feel seen. You have to create this connection internally with yourself. And, like I had said earlier, it's about doing the correct rituals, the correct routines. If I want to transform into an athlete, I need to be, if I want to transform into a basketball player, I need to play basketball. I'm not going to be the best football player in the world by playing a bunch of basketball. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's about doing the correct rituals. So, and another key here, don't focus on your goals, on actually realizing your goals. Don't focus on getting there. Don't focus on the destination. Rather, enjoy the journey. Because if you're so fixated on those goals, you're going to get them and you're going to die again.
Yep.
You've become so fixated with this idea of achieving this thing that when you achieve it, it's not going to be what you want it to be.
Yep. Absolutely.
Your goals might even completely change on the journey. So rather, enjoy the journey. And your passion will fuel you. It will be your motivation. Your decisions will be motivated by your journey. You'll actually love the work. When you're doing things aligned with your higher self, you'll actually love it. And I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be areas that are going to challenge you, especially if you're transforming into a hero. You're going to face adversaries. That's the truth. So, yeah, this next slide, actually going into transformation. So, what is transformation? We know from earlier that transformation is how we take a realization and turn it into an actualization. We do that through transformation. So, I like these images here of these people who are seemingly like, regular professional people. You feel me? Like this is like a nurse or an RN, but she has this cape, and this other guy, he's like a business dude. He's on his laptop running, but he's got this cape. And, the cape signifies this personal power. It signifies this dignity, this authority, this protection almost, So when we're transforming our self-image. These people, this person might be just a regular doctor, but because of the way that they talk to themselves, they know that they are saving people's lives. They treat themselves how they deserve to be treated, as a hero, because they are a hero. They really are saving people's lives. And so just her mindset on her self-image, look how confident she is, like she feels great about who she is because she's done the work to transform who she is.
Right.
Her self-image, even just the way that you look at yourself, changes how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely.
So, through transformation, you'll notice physically your body will change. I'm telling you, if you're doing your asanas every day, your body will change. You will feel different in your body. Your body will grow.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts will change. The way that you think will change. I don't have the same thoughts that I had 3 years ago. I don't have the same body I had 3 years ago. I don't have the same habits. The relationships have changed, So as you transform, everything that you're perceiving reality through will shift. If you're a human, you're going to have human thoughts, human feelings, human habits, human relationships. But as you evolve beyond your humanity, you will start to have thoughts beyond your humanity. If you start to develop a divine body, your thoughts will be divine. Your feelings will be divine. Your habits will be divine. Your relationships will be divine. I can't have, right now in my path, I can't just have a casual relationship with a woman, because I've evolved to the point where I know who I am. I know that I am a divine being. I value what I have to give to the point where it's like, I can't have this human relationship. Like I'm a human still. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm always humble myself. I'm a human, but the standard has changed.
Facts.
As you transform, your standard will change.
That's a fact, brother. That's right. Hit it right on the nail. Like just I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago. Well, no, actually it was a couple days ago. I had just posted a TikTok that I was just saying that I'm at the point of my life, and I was basically essentially saying what you were saying, is that I'm at the point of my life where I am not accepting, or I'm just not looking to have any relations with people who are not on my type of timing. I'm evolving, right? My path is clear, and you have to understand, family, that as you transform, he's saying your body will change, your thoughts will change, your relationships change. Well, first, body, thoughts, feelings, habits, lifestyle, all of that changes, which in turn will make your relationships change, which in turn will make your environments change. These things have to change, because when you have a relationship with somebody, you guys are on the same, I'm not going to say the same, you're on the same path necessarily, but a relationship isn't sustainable if you're not. You're each going to be pulling each other in one which way, or one person's energy this way or that way. So if you are transforming, if you are going in a certain direction, if you are flying upwards, the altitude is going to be too much for a person who can't fly that high themselves. So I just wanted to throw that in there, brother. That is the hardest thing. That is probably the biggest and most difficult thing for people who walk a certain path, is that usually on that journey, right, you started off at a point where nobody around you wanted to go in that direction. So a lot of times as you change, people are going to say you change. And funny thing is, earlier today I was watching a video of one of my subscribers had reacted to me. And in that video I was talking about there's good change and there's bad change. So if a person or if people look at you like, oh, you're changing, in order for you to grow, you have to change. So that could be a good change that you're going through, and that is something that you have to accept and be ready for as you evolve.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people aren't ready to die. Like, it sounds kind of psycho me saying that, but it's like,
It's true, though.
If we're going to change, you either have to keep up or you're going to keep me down.
Exactly.
So you can ask the people in my circle right now, they're keeping up. And the people who aren't keeping up, they reveal who they really are. You know, people who, you know, their intentions might be pure, but you can't go where I'm going.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to let you stop me.
Exactly.
Okay, so yes, transformation. This is the vehicle for activation, right? And so this next slide, I'm going to show you a vehicle that I used and I'm still using to help me transform.
Are we on the dragon slide?
Yes, on the dragon slide. Yeah, so for y'all who don't know, my earth name, the name that my mother had given me, is Drew. D-R-U, right? And this version of myself is a human, right? I'm Drew. I will always be known in my family as Drew. Even if I, you know, whatever I decide to do with my life, there will always be this version of me called Drew that people will know me as. So this version of Drew, you know, he's still living, actually. You know, Drew is, you know, a young adult who is stepping into his power, and this version of myself has made a lot of mistakes. You know, I wouldn't even call them mistakes, but this version of me called Drew has experienced a lot of trauma, experienced a lot of chaos. And sometimes Drew, you know, falls to these human desires, to these lower natures, you know, to these lower influences. And so I am in the process of disciplining Drew. I'm in the process of disciplining myself, disciplining, you know, this personality of mine, this spirit of mine. You know, being a human is just that. I'm a human being. I make mistakes, but I'm striving to be great. And so I use this spirit of Druk to evolve myself, to transform myself. So Druk is a version of my higher self, right? Drew is a human, but Druk is a dragon. So if you actually look up my name in Bhutanese, which is where this dragon comes from, Drew does mean dragon. So as much as Drew is a human, that word itself even means dragon. But Druk with a K means thunder dragon. So I'll just tell a quick story so that you can see a real example of how I used a blueprint of my higher self to evolve myself and specifically to discipline myself. So Druk is a thunder dragon, and this thunder dragon has some pretty ancient lore, right? So y'all are probably familiar with the Dalai Lama, right? The Dalai Lama is essentially like the spiritual leader of Buddhism, right? So in Tibet, which is where the Dalai Lama was at the time, the Chinese government was after him. They was like, yo, this Buddhism, this enlightenment thing, we can't be having none of it. We need our population fast asleep, right? Mm-hmm. So they're looking to capture the Dalai Lama and put him in political prison, right? So the Dalai Lama, he gathers up all the Buddhas, right? And they're like, all right, we got to get out of Tibet. Chinese government on the way. And as they're leaving Tibet, these thunder dragons follow them. And why do they follow them? Well, these thunder dragons and these Buddhas have had a relationship for a very, very long time. You see, these thunder dragons, these storm dragons, they are ancient. And in the beginning, these storm dragons would create huge, huge storms and cause all this destruction and all this chaos. But see, over time, the Buddhas worked with Druk, with the thunder dragons, and they performed all these spirit rituals, all of these different routines and different connections to discipline Druk. And so Druk, which started as this chaotic, unpredictable force, got disciplined and became very kind, very friendly, to the point where the thunder dragons wanted to protect the Buddhas, right? So these thunder dragons left with the Dalai Lama, left with the Buddhas to protect these wise people, right? And so they're traveling, and they get to these mountains. They climb into these mountains, which ends up being Bhutan, which in their language is called Druk Yul, the land of the thunder dragons. They get up in these mountains and they post up, they start building their spiritual civilization, right? And so, when catches word, and the Chinese government, the Chinese army pulling up like, yo, we're coming for you, Dalai Lama, and we taking all you Buddhas out, right? And mind you, they're in this huge mountainous region, so it's already difficult to get to them in these mountains. But as the army starts to ascend the mountains, huge storm clouds form, and the thunder dragons start casting all this wind, rain, storms, all this chaos, and it protects the people in Tibet, protects the wise Buddhas. And even to this day, Bhutan stands as a spiritual center that has not been conquered. It's still it's considered the happiest place on earth, and this is all because of the protection of the thunder dragons.
A spiritual stronghold.
Yeah. So how do I apply that, though? Now that I have this story, now that I have this higher self blueprint, right? How do I really apply that to my life? Well, we can see that Druk starts off as chaos, right? Starts off as, just like every other human, we start off ignorant. We start off not knowing wisdom. But see, as we do these rituals, as we work with wisdom, the Buddhas are wisdom. I see the Buddhas as wisdom cells in my body, right? As we begin to work with our wisdom, we develop this relationship and we start to control chaos. Chaos doesn't just sporadically cause all this destruction, it actually is controlled. And now it protects our wisdom. You see, Druk transmutated from this chaotic force into a force that protects wisdom. And so now when I'm doing what I need to do, when I am thinking a thought that says, hey, you should go eat that Rice Krispie, I remember my wisdom. I'm Druk. I defend wisdom. I don't against wisdom. I don't kill these monks. I don't slaughter these people. I have to protect them. If I don't protect these monks, if I don't protect my wisdom, and I start going against my discipline, I'm going to revert back to chaos. And it's destruction, baby. You feel me?
Giving yourself those triggers. Powerful, family.
Exactly. It's a motivation.
Right. And, what Drew essentially has been saying, well, he's been saying many things other than what I'm about to say, but a key point that I want to point out here, too, that's so important, as you see, is, having that higher self identity, right? One moment, family. I lost my brother Drew here, family. 1 second. Oh, we was just cooking up. We was just cooking up too. My apologies, family, for the technical difficulties. Bear with us. I lost my brother Drew. I don't know what just happened, but we are getting to the end of this slide. Brother Drew, I don't know what happened there, but
yeah, I noticed the live got buffed out, so
yeah. Well, we're back active.
yeah,
We're back.
looks like we back.
Yeah, we back in cracking.
Yeah, we're just at the end of the presentation too, so we'll finish it up and we'll answer any questions that are in the chat.
Okay. So the next slide was you are the main character, the hero.
Yes, yeah. So I just gave an example of, a blueprint for your higher self, right? And this blueprint really holds a lot of its potency because I created a personal connection to it, right? It's really a version of myself that I strive to be. I really do strive to protect wisdom. I really do strive to be kind. I strive to be helpful. You feel me? So, I found that vessel was a great container for that energy, for the spirit I was looking to conduct and to animate, right? So, I always see, well, I don't always see, but the hero is a great archetype that we can use to evolve into, but not everybody is going to be a hero. Some people are healers, some people are wizards, right? You can create your higher self however you want to be. Even in my opinion, a great version is just to imagine yourself as a king, imagine yourself as a queen, right? That higher version of yourself. How does a queen go about their day? A queen, for example, isn't extremely promiscuous. A queen doesn't let anyone enter into her body because she's a queen. She's royalty. She has this huge kingdom and inheritance. She's only gonna, be with a king. You feel me? So create this main character and embody this main character and think about, what virtues does this main character have? What code of ethics does this person live by? If you want to be a samurai, what's the code of a samurai? And you better be living that, because if someone goes to check you, are you really who you say you are? You got to pass that test. Mm-hmm. If I check you, so many people out here in the world pretending to be something they're not. If you're telling me you're Yeshua, if you're telling me you're this Christ energy, which is the hero energy, but if you're telling me you're Yeshua, then where's your family? Where's your wife? Where's your children? Yeshua has a family of Christ. So why are you all alone? Have you abandoned your family? Like, this doesn't add up. Now I'm starting to realize that you're really an imposter. You feel me? So you really have to be this version of yourself that you say you are. I say that I'm Druk. What does that really mean? That means I'm a disciplined dragon. You feel me? That's what that means to me. You feel me? And I'm really living what it takes to be that person. You feel me? So think about, what virtues does that person have? What daily routines does that person have? You're embodying that every day. Feel how that person would feel. Think how that person would think. You're going to adopt the description of your higher self and you're going to embody it and really live it. And And then here in the next slide, I put some examples of, some things that people might transform into. Even down to Buddhas, there are so many different versions of a Buddha that someone could evolve into, Some people evolve into Buddhas who are like Zen Buddhas, and they achieve enlightenment through just going Zen, but not everybody is going to be a Buddha. Some people are going to be war generals. Some people are going to be billionaires, businessmen. Like, that's why I like that little gif of the guy meditating with the Bitcoin. Some of y'all are gonna, with this whole crypto thing, you're gonna become extremely rich, but you're just gonna be this Buddha. You feel me? Like, you really have no desire to do with that, but you've attained and actualized a specific vehicle, a specific form of your higher self. Everybody got different versions of their higher self, but whatever it is, it has to be aligned with you. It has to have a personal connection with you. It has to be real. You feel me? Like, I'm not gonna evolve into, like, I can't even think of an example, but like, okay, I'm not gonna evolve into a mermaid. You feel me? That's not to say someone else can't, but to me, that's not what I'm here to do. That doesn't align with my soul. My personality is a imprint of my soul, and I don't match any attributes of a mermaid, for example. And that's why something as simple as like those 3 body types, that kind of information can remind you who you resonate with, who you are. You feel me? So whatever you resonate with, whatever disciplines you implement into your life, that's going to determine what you're going to transform into.
Absolutely. It goes into exactly what you're saying about knowing yourself. Only you could tell yourself who you are, right? Who you are becoming, right? And like what you said, like, you have to be in order to become. So, ask yourself, what would my higher self... I literally have this written on my whiteboard in my living room. What would my higher self do right now? Like, this journey is literally you finding yourself back to self. So knowing yourself is how you know, right, who you are, like what your higher self entails, right? Like you could be an angel, you could be a god, like what Drew was saying, in the higher version of yourself. There's different categories, different roles that we all play. But the biggest thing we have to remind ourselves on a daily basis, and until it becomes like clockwork, is what would this version of myself do? You have to be before you can become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Signs of activation.
Yeah, no. A lot of this, is already a review, but someone who's activated, someone who has realized and actualized that realization, they stand in front of you. You can see it. You can't lie. It's the truth. So even someone who, when they were younger, they said, I want to help people, I want to heal people. When you see them 20 years later and they're a doctor, that's an activation. They have actualized that, and they've realized that, and they've embodied that higher version of themselves. And like I said, everyone's higher self is going to look a little different, but these signs are going to be across the board. You're going to notice transformation in all the bodies. Like we had said earlier, your mental body, your thoughts will change. Your mind will change. When you develop that empty mind, that's called a sattvic mind. You develop a pure mind. But even your emotions will change. You'll feel different. You'll speak different. Even people's voices will change. You'll start talking from different regions in your body. You'll notice that your behaviors change, your habits change, the way that you interact with people on a day-to-day changes. For example, for me, now that I've been striving towards this higher self, I'm more kind, I'm more aware, more alert in my everyday, so more signs of activation. Your power level increases. You have a new standard of power, and that can look a lot of different ways. Like we had said earlier, since I've evolved from an ignorant person into a wiser person, my standards for my relationships, for example, have changed. You know, my romantic relationships, but even my relationships with, you know, business wise. I'm not going to do business with certain people because my standard has increased. Think about it. When you activate financially, right? When you level up and transform financially, you have a new standard. You know, when you were a kid, $100 was like mind blowing. You're like, yo, I could get anything in the world with $100. But now that you've activated, now that you've transformed, $100 don't get you too far. You know, maybe that Racky, you know, start having you look like, oh, okay, I'm getting some money. But then, you know, once you got there, once you've been there, it's like 10K ain't enough.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's always going to be that new level. So a sign that you've activated is that that standard has elevated, you know. Hopefully it has elevated, or else you're going the wrong way. You're evolving negatively. You don't want to do that. Yeah, like we said, your habits are attuned to your new standard. You know, your habits are going to reflect your discipline. Another sign of activation is opportunities will open up, and you'll walk through those opportunities and experience elevated timelines. So these opportunities is what we call, how people say, alignment or synchronicity. That is really harmony. You feel me? When you're living in harmony with your authenticity, opportunities arise for that. When you're living out of harmony, opportunities arise to put you back into harmony. If you're living an identity of someone you're not, you feel me? Like, for example, if you're out here, you know, gang banging, whatever, slanging drugs, doing these things that really aren't you, you're going to have opportunities that arise to, you know, break you out of that timeline. Right. You know, you're going to have opportunities that arise to make you walk in a different direction. So when you're actually operating in alignment with who you're meant to be, these opportunities open up, and instead of leading to death, they lead to life. They give you opportunities to grow, opportunities to embody your higher self. Another sign of activation, people may notice you just out and about. I experienced this, people just start filming me. I said this earlier, like just walking barefoot in my neighborhood, people will start filming me. I've had people literally follow me down the street at night, like groups of people following me. I'm like, this is absurd, but I know it's because they
I'm sorry, I'm like imagining it, and it's like from your point of view, it's like yeah, I'm just seeing it in my head.
I'm telling you, I got a lot of stories, bro. You know, I'm thinking about uploading some videos, sharing them, but you know, we'll see what we do. But yeah, you know, there's some things I didn't put on here. You'll even notice nature will respond to you differently. Like I said here, your environment will begin to respond to you. The wind picks up when you speak. You know, you walk under lights, the lights start flickering. That's real. That happens. And the more you grow your awareness and your power, you'll begin to recognize this. You feel me? Yeah, simple. You embody the life of your higher self every day. Eventually, that lower self dies. That version of yourself that isn't you, that is built on outdated structures and habits, that will begin to dissolve. And every day, you're living the life of your higher self. That's a sign of activation. Yes, and once again, the alignment in your life leads to creating powerful connections. Even me and Jay here, we both met, you know, going out and connecting, exploring the world, traveling. And when we connected, we were in a higher timeline. I don't know about you, Jay, but at that event, my consciousness was very, very open. I was at a very high state, you know, a high standard. That's when we originally connected.
Yes.
You know, so even just our connection is a sign of activation.
Absolutely. that alignment,
Yep.
with the, you know, looking around you and the environment, right? Because the environment that we were in itself is proof to that as well. We were around several people who are on a journey to their higher self, and that's exactly that speaks volumes on what the connection actually means, where we met at, and what we're even here doing today.
And that's a great reminder. Something I forgot to put in this, I remember writing it down in my notes, but I didn't put it in the slide, is that traveling can activate you. Like, I just went down to Dallas for about like 4 or 5 days, and coming back here, things are completely different. I'm completely different. I've activated a lot just from traveling. You know, a lot of people feel very free on vacation. You know, that's how you should feel all the time. You know, so traveling can remind us of that freedom, you know, and it can put us in new environments. You know, if we stay in the same town our whole lives, we're only going to experience that reality. It's like being a human. If you're only ever living the life of a human, you'll only ever be a human. But once you start to cultivate, you know, thoughts of a Buddha, for example, you know, once you start putting yourself in the environments that a Buddha would be in, well, what makes you really even different from that Buddha? It's just a realization. It's just a actualization. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So traveling can activate you.
Absolutely. It's funny that you say that, brother, because I've been here in Houston for about 4 months now, and I had a couple weeks ago I went to New York to see some family, and I immediately felt how I used to feel when I lived there. And it brought more, I mean, I was already aware of this, but it brought even more awareness to me how that intuitive feeling that I had to, I don't want to say escape, but yes, I'm going to say escape. That intuitive thought I had to escape that environment because of what it was doing for my energy was reinforced. Because that place did feel like home, so to speak. But what my idea of home wasn't the right idea, because now that I'm living out here in Houston, I constantly feel like I'm on vacation. That's what you reminded me of this right now when you said like that freeing feeling. I constantly feel like I'm on a vacation. Like sometimes I'll be walking outside and just the sounds that I'm hearing in nature that I would never hear in New York is activating something in my mind where it just gives me that same feeling where I can't really put an exact label on it of the feelings that I would feel when I would go on vacation. So you hit it right on the nail there with that example.
Bro, do them big old roaches be activated? I know they had me looking up.
No, yeah,
he a big fella.
Yeah, Houston. Yeah, Houston got some big ones, man. They do got some big ones, man. They got some.
Bro, I swear.
I was just talking about how you said like you kicked one when you was out here in Texas. Oh yeah, not even just Houston, Texas, for real.
Yeah.
Texas overall.
Yeah, and bro, I just wanted to say, yeah, like sometimes we outgrow our cribs, you know. Like I've lived in Michigan my whole life. I already know it's time for me to go. Like I'm leaving here soon. I'm spreading my wings and I'm flying. You feel me? Like as much as Michigan has been my roots, has been my home, has been my comfort, it's beginning to get uncomfortable. I'm getting too big for my shoes. I need new shoes. You feel me?
Exactly.
And sometimes that's like that with environments. Sometimes that's like that with relationships and people and habits and mindsets. You feel me? We gotta get used to dying. You feel me? Because that's how you're gonna live. You feel me? Death is life in disguise, and life, when you're holding on to life, is really death in disguise.
Very true, brother.
So yes, I think we have one more slide, but you know, it's just a review. You know, this is a continuous process. You're always gonna be returning to your awareness. You're always gonna realize new things. You're always got another level to transform and to activate. You know, it's a continuous process, but you keep doing the work and it gets easier and easier and easier. You know, those habits, you know, that function of your mind is really there to serve you. But because we've been ignorant to how our mind works, to how our body works, it has been used against us and become a weapon against us. So we empower ourselves with knowledge, but with wisdom, we actually direct that power. So, yeah, it's a continuous transformative process of dying and becoming. And we're becoming our higher selves. So, yeah, that's the slideshow.
Yes. Brother, you put so many gems together in a very short time too. This was very informative.
Just had to get it out there, man. Had to get it out there.
Yeah, man. This is one of those videos where you definitely got to come back and rewatch. Right? There was so many different gems dropped in here. I myself is gonna watch this back, right? Just in case there was any gems that Drew may have dropped that I may have not fully picked up. Right? So many different gems. But I'm gonna get into the chat here and see, because I didn't really look too much into the chat, and see if there were any questions.
I see one person, had commented, how you gonna get what's waiting for you when your nervous system is not aligned with that is? And as much as that doesn't have a question mark, it is a rhetorical question, and I'll answer it because I be like that. So, you know, you're exactly right. Your nervous system is basically how you've conditioned yourself. You know, if you're numbing out your nervous system with, you know, constant dopamine, you know, especially as a man, if you're abusing your sexual energy, you know, your nervous system's going to be fried. You're going to become numb. I know. I mean, for me, at least, I had that depressed teenage state where it's like I just felt numb all the time. And that's because my nervous system was all out of whack. You know what I'm saying? I'm in an environment I'm not supposed to be in. I'm experiencing these relationships that aren't healthy for me. You feel me? So, yeah, getting your nervous system lined up is really how you enter heaven and hell. If you're in a state where your nervous system is uncomfortable, you're going to feel like you're in hell. If you're in a state where your nervous system is blissed out, you're going to feel like you're in heaven. And it's a simple matter of perceiving something.
Right.
And it's conditioning. You feel me?
Conditioning. Right. That's the key right there. So you see, it says, how you going to get what's waiting for you when your nervous system is not aligned with that is? And you see, here's the thing. If your nervous system is not aligned with what is waiting for you, right, what you want, then that all starts with the process of the beginning of what we were saying. First, you have to, your higher self is already guiding you to create the habits that is going to change your nervous system into who you're supposed to be. So what's waiting for you is who you're supposed to be. So in order for you to change your nervous system to become that, you have to tap in with the higher self. That's what it comes down to. And that's why Drew, when he's talking about the pleasures, or what did you say exactly? You said overriding with pleasures. You said something along those lines. The pleasures.
Yeah, we're talking about the nervous system.
Yeah, you said pleasures. I believe like it's the pleasures and the distractions that pull you away from it. So it comes down to that discipline, right? It comes down to that tapping in with the higher self. Shutting out, I like to say higher self and ego, but you know, when the mind comes knocking or the ego comes knocking, not opening the door so much, the more you do that, you're walking the path. This is not something that just happens overnight. It happens right away for you, right? You have the first step is being honest with yourself, tapping in with the higher self, right? And we've given practices on how to do that. Right, because it's not a cookie cutter way for every person, but this is a guide of how to do that. So being honest with yourself, so you know what habits, listening to the higher self, so you know what habits and what tendencies to start living by. Your nervous system will change by doing those things.
Yep.
And that's what, you know, one of my favorite sayings is, as you walk the path will reveal itself. So that's that for that right there.
Yeah, I see this this other question. This is from I call him some Supreme Spirit, great brother. He had actually asked me this question a few days prior, just privately, and I told him, hey, you should really save this for the live stream. I think other people could benefit from this. He says, yo, can you be an avatar of two different gods that have nothing to do with each other? And just to make that a more universal question, like, can you be an avatar of two different higher selves? I'm not sure if you want to comment on this, Jay.
Can you be
If not, I got it.
Can you be an avatar of two different gods that have nothing to do with each other?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, honestly, see, I'm not gonna say that you can't, right? But what I would say is that should not be your focus. Now, as you know, as students of Brother Yosef, we understand that part of your higher self is also having spiritual parents, which would be two different deities or just higher forces. So in a sense, yes, but the way I see it is, that's not what you should be focused on, or that's not what you should be aiming for. I wouldn't be aiming for that. Personally, I feel that's gonna, we're already at one level, so it's like for one deity, one god is already a tall task, if you ask me. So I feel like you're looking of like, okay, because I do believe it can be that way, but you're not gonna say, okay, I want to be Tom Brady and Michael Jordan. Like, is it impossible? No. But is it likely? No. is it some that's the way I see it, right? And even so, connecting with deities, I have a connection with multiple deities, right? So I do understand where it's like, okay, if you are connecting with multiple deities, right? Let's say you're connecting with Lord Ganesh, but you're also connecting with the Jade Emperor. You might be feeling like you're spreading yourself a little bit too thin. So when it comes to that, you really should lock in and focus more on what resonates more with you, because that's probably more of who you're supposed to be in the direction you're supposed to go on. That's how I would say.
I see your perspective.
And also I wanna say this as well. It's coming from a lot of the gods, right? It really depends on your path, right? Are you on a more of the right hand or the left hand path? Because now if you're walking on a right hand path and you choose a deity that's more on the right hand side, you're naturally going to embody characteristics and traits or really like principles of several deities on that side, on that light side.
Yeah. You know, I see like a couple ways that I could break this question down and look at it. One thing that I want to say is that two gods that have nothing to do with each other. One thing that you have to realize getting up to these higher states is that you get past duality. You know, it might seem like these two deities have nothing to do with each other, but the reality is they both made it to those higher worlds. So there's something similar about them that you may not see now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to say though, because this is kind of how I answered it privately with him. Can you be an avatar of two different gods that have nothing to do with each other? Here's what I will say about this. All those deities, all those gods, all those different heroes that we have in our stories, all those are different timelines. They're all different realities. And so, I'm sorry, my phone's about to die. Let me...
And while you do that, really quickly, I just want to mention as well, as you see, a temple body commented under that and said, that's ultimately one source, and that's kind of where Drew is.
Exactly.
That's where he's getting to. That's where he's heading to, and that's why I say like light and I mean right and left hand path. You know, in this world, that duality has those two paths. So now, when we live in a world that's already with duality, and you're going on a light path, and there's deities that resonate in that energy. In a world of duality with deities that already are resonating in the same type of energy, that alone shows you how much of the same or how much or how similar they really are. You know what I mean? You're still walking the same path. So it's like these deities, like very real and higher versions of ourselves in alternate timelines, but it's like we're gods in training. So it's like, to me, it's almost pointless in a way, or it doesn't really matter to serve or to be an avatar for two different deities, because they like Drew said, they really do have more to do with each other than they don't. You know what I mean? So it's about the destination and the path and the journey of where you're going. So that's kind of how I see that.
Yeah, and I wanted to say as well, you know, for example, like having two different blueprints for your higher self. You know, like I can use Druk, the dragon, as a blueprint for my higher self. And I could also use an angel, for example, because Druk is a dragon. You know, you could say he's an angelic dragon. But I could also use an angel as a blueprint to evolve myself. And so the more that you separate and, you know, dilute your energy, you're gonna spread it thin. So you're gonna
spread thin. Yep.
You know, if you're creating 3 different blueprints, you're gonna have to be, you know, juggling a lot more. So, but what I will say though is that all of these stories, all of these characters, all already existed. So these gods, these avatars that we hear about, as much as we might be similar to them, or they might even be our so-called spiritual parents, might come to us using their avatars, the reality is everyone alive right now is a unique avatar in themselves. Mm-hmm. So I use myself as an example. A lot of my energy is not just Jupiter, but is the energy also of Mars and also of the sun. So I have these 3 energies, which in astrology I believe, what's the term? I'm not sure where 3 planets are grouped together closely. So you can see the energy of the sun, of Jupiter, and of Mars really prominent in my avatar. You see, so you could say that I'm using those 3 gods as a higher version of myself, and that I embody those 3 gods. I'm not saying that I do, but I'm saying that, you know, you as an individual are unique in your composition. You feel me? We all have a unique role on this earth, and some of us have, you know, more timelines we're looking to take care of than others. You know, some of us came here just to be a scholar, just to study and to become really wise. Some people wanted that, but then they were also like, yo, I'm gonna take on the responsibility of guiding people out of the underworld too. You know, maybe that's what their soul wants. So I hear what brother Supreme Spirit is saying. I hear what Brother Jay is saying. Even Temple Body, that's ultimately one source. I see all these perspectives, and really I would say, yes, it is possible, but you don't want to dilute your energy. You want to contain and direct your energy and keep it potent.
Yep.
You feel me?
Yep.
You want to stay concentrated, because if your mind's all over the place, it's going to be harder to focus and concentrate.
Yep. Right. We basically have the perspective on that. I completely agree with you. Shout out to because he was active in the chat, right? Shout out to everybody who was active in the chat, man. I'm looking at the comments right now. I was so locked in onto the presentation I wasn't reading them. But shout out to Eric, shout out to Sandra, Temple Body, LeBron, Doug's. We already, if I miss you, I think I said everybody. Man, shout out to y'all, man. Very, very interesting perspectives. I'm looking at this. Uriel. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's my alt account. That's my alt account.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so shout out to y'all, man.
I did want to say someone did leave an interesting comment. Where is it? Yeah. Dub said, you can really create different names for yourself to represent different versions of yourself. Some will call multi-personality disorder. Some would call it that, but if you create order with it, then it's not a disorder. It's just order. So
right.
Some people are going to experience disease. Some people are going to experience destruction from the same thing that another person will experience enlightenment, will experience even pleasure from, So, yeah, some people will call that multi-personality disorder, but that disorder occurs when the body, the mind, is not ready for that transformation. I know people in my personal life who are extremely powerful conduits, but because they haven't cleansed their body, because they haven't done the work, they get this surge of energy and they get hijacked. They fragment their soul. They experience trauma and now they're in psychosis. They're stuck in psychosis, some of them, So, yeah, that disorder occurs when there's no order. So you would need to have order. So, yeah, 100%. You can use different names. And a name really means nature. So your name is the nature of whatever vehicle you're describing, So, yeah, take on different vehicles and names to evolve, but that's why it's so important to remember who you are.
Yeah.
Until you'll develop this disorder,
Right. It's all about the intention. Well, family, we've been on here for a good amount of time. Shout out to the people that's still in the chat. I think this is a good time or a good moment for us to say our goodbyes for the night, right? It's getting pretty late. I know over there on your side it's about midnight, but man, we went in today. We went in. You went in, brother, right? Today, you went in. You always go in it. I gotta give Drew his flowers for real too. Like, brother Drew here is a very wise soul. He's on another level, guys. He's on another level, guys. I'm telling you. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. I call it how I see it.
About you, bro. Like as much as you might not even realize this, I'll keep it a buck with you, bro. I know one of your higher versions of yourself that I be seeing is Ganesh, bro. You are the path opener. So I can't do this without you, bro. Like, your role is so important. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes I'll be going off in different directions and you bring it back. You feel me? You allow all of this energy to reach out and to connect to the people it needs to connect to. So thank you to you, Jay, because you be the whole reason this is happening. You feel me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gratitude, man. Gratitude to the family. Gratitude to brother Drew. And we're gonna have more content. There's a lot more on the way. This is the beginning of we're been talking about the journey. Us ourselves, I know especially me, like, this is the beginning of that journey, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I want to say real quick, my bad to cut you off, bro.
Yeah, brother.
Unless you had anything else you would like to say.
No, yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
All right, bet. Yeah, I just want to mention, I do have a website if you would like to support me, www.eps.quest, and right now I'm selling Harataki supplements. So you can get your Harataki and support creators like me just right through the website. Harataki, if you're all part of Brother Yosef community, you already know about Harataki. He put us on. And in my personal life, I was pressing my own Harataki because I can't find any good quality, can't find good price capsules anywhere. And And so now I'm passing on the blessing. So if y'all want to get some hard talkie, visit my website and support me over there. So a little shameless plug, but let's get it.
Yes, sir. Activate that pineal, man. Hey, brother, you could put that in the chat. You could put the website in the chat. I could pin that. Before we click off this, let's support the brother and put the Harataki, or put his website actually in the chat.
Yeah, I'm selling Harataki. That's the main thing I'm pushing right now. I also got some ashwagandha available on there for y'all who like that. Great for anxiety, stress. Yeah, and then eventually, you know, I'm going to be selling some other products, other supplements. Magnesium is next. Everybody needs magnesium, so expect that by the end of the month we'll have magnesium on there as well. So
Perfect. Were you able to drop the website on the chat?
oh yeah, I thought I did, but looking like it's not on there.
Epps World's Industry, correct?
It's www.eps.quest.
Alright, gotcha. www.eps.quest.
Yes. But yeah, although in the future there's going to be all sorts of products on there. My company Eps is focused around health and education, so even things like this live stream, this is something included with my mission at Eps, is educating people. Because in my opinion, your health, education is just as important to your health. If you don't know how to treat your mind, how to treat your body, you're not going to be healthy.
Very true. But alright, family, I think we're gonna end it off here. Again, gratitude to the chat, gratitude to the brother Drew. And these are some gems that you'll have to look back on later on. But until next time, family.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Thank you to you, Jay. Thank you all for the wonderful questions. I'll catch y'all later. Peace to y'all.
Love, family. Peace.
Love.